What's up YouTube, Capital G here talking Spyrals in this video. Guys, just one mere week ago, I sat right here and I told you that the Spiral invasion had begun, and it was my personal belief that Spyrals were going to ascend in the OCG to the top of the food chain and that they'd become basically the best deck in the metas region. And let me just say before anybody says, oh, Cap G's gonna grandstand for this entire video, no, it doesn't honestly take a genius to predict something like that. I looked at some of the basics. Usually when a deck hits the ground running this hard, here's the OCG breakdown from last week by Road to the King. They haven't updated for this week yet. It'll probably come tomorrow, but we already kind of know what's going down, obviously, after their ban list. I mean, you looked at the first week with Spyrals and Double Helix, and it was like, wow, they're already kind of pushing dinosaurs to the 2 spot, and it's like, man, usually when that happens in the OCG, decks don't flop after doing such a strong performance in week 1. And then you combine that with the new ban list that they just got in the OCG, where True Kings lost Masterpiece, they lost Diagram, Zodiac have been dead forever, and then other things like Baby Sarasaurus gets hit. Obviously, dinosaurs are going to be less represented, and obviously the prediction comes to fruition. Spyrals have taken over the entire OCG. I mean, this is right now, if you looked at like the percentages, this would definitely qualify as tier 0. Like, look at just look how many times you see the word Spiral pop up. Everybody and their mama is actually on this deck. In fact, I was shocked, right? I ended up going to the card breakdown, because YG Organization always has this nice little feature where it shows the card rankings, and the first 3 aren't really that big of a deal, or excuse me, they're not that shocking to see, like Ash, Forehead, Maxi, Droll and Lockbird. If you're wondering why Droll and Lockbird is so high, it's because of Spyrals, because obviously they have the Spiral Resort that searches, and then, you know, the deck uses Quick Fix like 10 times in a turn. So this is one of those situations, much like Dragon Rulers, where I'm just like, bro, take the neg 1 with Droll and Lockbird so that your opponent doesn't plus infinitely. You know what I mean? That's definitely worth it. But if you get past the hand traps, and you get past set rotation, which essentially is just their replacement for terraforming. Terraforming is obviously at 1 in the OCG, so there's no way it's going to make it to the top of any of the card rankings, because it is at limited status. Look at the next 4 cards on the card ranking list: Machine Duplication, Spy Gear Drone, Quick Fix, and Spiral Resort. And the next 4 cards are all Spiral related, so that just tells you the absolute dominance that this deck currently has and the OCG. And it's actually really scary for the OCG and the TCG, because for the OCG, I don't think there's going to be any salvation anytime soon. They just got their ban list. Konami's not going to shake things up for the next 3 months, and we've seen at least 2 of the major archetypes in Extreme Force. We've seen the Tentacles, we've seen the Jack Knights. They are nowhere near the power of Spyrals. They cannot just utterly just spam all over the board Link monsters. So those are not decks that are going to put even a dent in the Spiral dominance, unless maybe Konami puts something incredibly powerful in the Link Vrains pack, which comes out in November. So that will be before they get their next ban list. Unless that Burning Abyss Link monster is utterly broken, or maybe that Glad Beast Link monster is something so crazy, like you look at it and you're like, why'd they even print this? If it's like a Link 2 that says, you know, once per turn you can discard like 1 Glad monster, special summon 2 Glad fusion monsters from your extra deck, ignoring like summoning canal, let's do something like that. I think that Spyrals are going to be on top in the TCG, or excuse me, in the OCG for quite a while. And the reason that I say it's really scary in the TCG, and I don't think that it's too early to start talking about this. I think some people might be like, come on, Cat, we just got a new ban list. Isn't this a little bit premature to start talking about Spyrals? I don't think so. Circuit Break is going to hit the TCG in less than basically a month from now. So we have 4 weeks until this deck comes to the TCG, and we start having to deal with the invasion here. One of the reasons that I think Spiral is going to be such a scary deck in the TCG is because, number 1, we have less Maxis than they do in the OCG. Number 2, we have Terraforming at 3, and the Spiral Resort is not a hard once per turn, so you can expect a lot of Spiral players to play 3 copies of Terraforming, and then obviously 3 Resorts, and probably for them to activate Resort, I don't know, maybe 2-3 times possibly in a turn. And I actually, I think I'm going to get a little bit of flack for this, but I'm looking at the price of a lot of the Spiral cards, and yes, they have gone up, but I actually think some of these are really great values. Now you can ignore this price right here. I think ever since the ban list dropped and you had the one guy who had his diagrams listed as like a penny, but then there's like a $420 card you have to buy to get his diagrams. I think everybody's starting to do a little bit of trolling on what's it called, on TCG Player. Maybe TCG Player might have to crack down on this. Another guy is doing the same thing with Spyrals Super Agent, where I believe he's selling his for a penny and $1 shipping or 99-cent shipping, but then his other card is I forget exactly what it is. I just looked it up, but it's I think $120, like a Nico Kane or some really random card. But if you look at Spyrals Super Agent, this is the card that I really want to focus on, right? So the normal price right now is under $20. I find this astonishing because we're 1 month out from this probably being the best deck. Now, will it be tier 0 in the TCG? I don't know about that. I don't know if Spyrals will be tier 0 like they are in the OCG, because I do think having to deal with 3 Masterpiece as opposed to having to deal with none, you know, that's a pretty big deal. I think Spyrals might struggle with Masterpiece. Outside of that, I think they'll kind of just run everything else over. But if you really looked at Spiral Super Agent, like this being a $20 card that's going to be an absolute staple, a mandatory 3 of, and probably the best deck in the entire game, that is incredible that this is only $20 a month before the deck comes out. I mean, I already estimate that Double Helix will be the most expensive card in Circuit Break, that it probably will be somewhere between $90 and $100. So I actually expect when people start understanding how powerful Spyrals are and they start having some competitive results, I fully expect Super Agent to jump to like $50, because especially if you took this and you went back to other eras of Yu-Gi-Oh! I say this all the time, if you had a deck that kind of fits Spyrals' description, you had an ultra rare that has never been reprinted. Super Agent never got reprinted in the Megatons. There's only 1 print of this card. Obviously, it's really difficult to find the Dark Illusion in stores. If you find it, you're lucky. Still no guarantee that you're going to get a Super Agent anyways. But if you had a deck that was probably going to be the most dominant deck in the game, and it had an ultra rare that you had to run 3 of, and it had not been reprinted, usually in other eras like 5Ds and GX, that would be like a $60, $70 card. Now obviously we get hollows in every pack, so it's going to be a little bit watered down, but that's why I can perfectly see Super Agent being like you know, a $50 card. Now obviously the other ones, Quick Fix and I believe it's Big Red, those are like super rare versions, but you don't have to get those in super, because you can still get those in rare. You can get them in the super cheap editions. But I'm looking at Super Agent, man, and I'm like, you know, I don't generally make a lot of predictions when it comes to like investments, but I think $20 for you know, each for a playset of Super Agents is actually a steal, because I think if you wait 6 weeks, I think this will be a $50 card. So you guys let me know what you think. Is your body ready for Spyrals in the TCG? Again, I'm a little early, but I just want to report this because it did happen. Spyrals have ascended to that tier 0 status in the OCG, and some of the decks that were probably going to be competing with Spyrals this format in the TCG, the Zodiac, I mean, that deck just got trashed. The Dinosaur deck, which I guess you're not even going to be messing around with Yang Zings. That deck got definitely devastated with Miscellaneous Source going to 1, and then Denlong just being outright banned. So that deck definitely got nerfed, and I think now most people are looking at running Lost World versions, and then it's kind of like the only deck standing left is the True Draco deck, and right now True Draco's is kind of just Masterpiece or Boss, where obviously before it had Ignis Heat and Dynamite and a whole bunch of other plays. Right now it's like, oh, you don't have Masterpiece on the field? Alright, Spyrals will just run your ass over, and even if you do, there's still Kaijus and other ways to out the card. But just wanted to bring this discussion to the forefront because my body is starting to be ready. I actually remember something crazy I said on my live stream in 2016, which people quoted. I said that if Spyrals ever became tier 1 and won a YCS, that I would host a tournament with 5 boxes of the current product, and looks like we might end up doing that. So we might see the biggest prize tournament in the history of Twitch.tv sometime soon if Spyrals do win that YCS tournament. But anyways, whatever you guys believe, even if you disagree and you think Spyrals are going to flop in the TCG, let me know in the comment section below. Just explain why. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already, and turn on the notifications for daily videos. And actually, there's one last thing. I've talked about it sparingly when I've been discussing Spyrals in the past. I think that Winter Cherries is definitely going to be a card to keep your eye on, and it can actually be one of the reasons why Double Helix artificially kind of becomes more of an expensive card. You might see people play Winter Cherries as kind of a means of going second, since we obviously only have like one max C in the TCG, a means of going second, a way to just eliminate the Double Helix and make the matchup a lot easier. But at the same time, if you're running Winter Cherries, that obviously means that that means that you need at least one copy of Double Helix. So now you'll have people in the meta potentially who aren't even playing Spyrals, but who need a copy of Double Helix. So it's another reason why I could really see Double Helix being like a $90 to $100 card. And maybe we even see Winter Cherries, despite the fact that it just got reprinted, maybe we see this double in price or go up to like $10 or something like that, because it is such a powerful card in the Spiral matchup. Also very solid against ABC as well.